Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for me to address you on the occasion of your World Trade Week. My name is Richard Bolwijn. I'm the Director of Investment Research at UNCTAD. That is the United Nations organization that deals with trade and development. The theme of your event this week, Trade on the Road to Recovery, is very aptly chosen. It seems indeed that we are already there. This time last year, the forecast was for a fall in global trade flows of about 30%, and we ended the year with only about 5% down. And the forecast for 2021 is for an increase of 8%. That's approximately the estimate for the United States. And looking at your principal markets, Asia slightly faster and Latin America significantly weaker. Looking at my own area of work, and I'm referring in particular to the annual World Investment Report, the picture for global foreign direct investment flows is quite different. We ended last year with a decline of about 1/3 compared to 2019. Investment flows are now at only about $1 trillion, and that is significantly below the low point reached after the global financial crisis a decade ago. So we've lost quite a lot compared to the last crisis. Longer term, that's a big concern because trade, which is what we're talking about this week, is driven by foreign direct investment. Investment in productive assets in global value chains drive future trade growth. About 80% of global trade is taking place within global value chains coordinated, managed by multinational enterprises that are the owners of foreign direct investment. It's quite a contrast looking at booming global financial markets, looking at the extremely low cost of finance. In fact, domestic mergers and acquisitions, domestic investment is moving up, but cross-border foreign direct investment flows are not. They're still stagnant, and we do not expect much growth for this year. For our constituents, developing countries, that is a major concern. The pool of efficiency seeking investment that they look for to drive the growth of productive capacity and their industrial development is shrinking. And that hurts their development prospects. For participants in the Global Trade Week at your end, there are also some challenges, but there is also a series of opportunities. Let me just highlight three aspects. One, a major buzzword that I'm sure you will hear a lot of this week, of course, is supply chain resilience. My impression is that looking at it from an investment perspective, the existing international production networks are extremely costly to restructure. And due to fixed costs, sunk costs in these production networks and global value chains, they will not change from one day to another. But for new investment decisions, this could well be one of the factors behind the slowdown in global investment. In new investment decisions, we'll have to take into account the resilience of supply chains. And my feeling is that although resilience will not be a driver of reshoring as much as it will be a drag on the development of new investment. Looking at the second aspect, a positive aspect, the renewed engagement with the international community on trade and investment issues that we've seen since the elections is a very positive aspect. It has a number of sides. There is a drive to regional integration around the world. ASEAN is seeing increased intra-regional investment and trade. The RCEP agreement was signed in the second half of last year. The African continent, it's not just in Asia, it's also elsewhere. The African continent has signed its free trade agreement. And all of this means bigger markets for you to export to. Another aspect of engagement in global trade and investment policy areas. Trade facilitation a decade ago has been a major success in facilitating administrative procedures around trade and customs procedures. Investment facilitation has the potential to do the same. But as we know, there are discussions ongoing on investment facilitation. Whatever the outcome of that will be, the movement towards engagement by emerging markets on investment facilitation has started. Even unilaterally, they are already taking many actions to improve the services they provide to investors. In fact, the COVID-19 crisis, with public offices often being closed, has really led to a boom in online business registration, online administrative procedures offered by government. Then looking at the last aspect, the huge influx of infrastructure spending that we will now see will bring major opportunities for project finance around the world, not just in the United States. So we see a big opportunity there. But we need to keep in mind one thing. The infrastructure boost in spending that we will see, and which is, well, trillions in the United States, but this happens around the world, where we're seeing at the moment at least $4 trillion being committed to infrastructure spending over the next few years around the world. But all of this is going to digital infrastructure, physical infrastructure, renewable energy, and health systems, which is fantastic for boosting long-term growth. But if we look at what happened during the pandemic, the fall in infrastructure investment was really only about 2%, whereas the fall in industrial investment was about 35%. So we need to keep in mind that the boost to investment from the public sector also needs to take into account the need to kickstart industrial investment again. And that's the investment in global value chains that I was talking about earlier. That said, as the UN, we are very happy with the boost to infrastructure spending that's coming up. Since the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015, we've been calling for increased investment in infrastructure, in health, in water and sanitation, in renewable energy and the energy transition. And this is now finally taking shape, unfortunately, under these circumstances. But to paraphrase what your president has just said, the energy transition can create jobs. The Sustainable Development Goals and the energy transition can also create trade and investment. And with that thought, I leave you. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a very successful conference.